Women in Motion Talks, which is presented by Kering and Variety. The purpose of the Women in Motion Talks is to celebrate the accomplishments of women in the film industry by talking to actresses, directors, producers, and executives, which we'll be doing throughout the week here at Cannes. We also want to study challenges that women face in the film industry, and most importantly, try to motivate change in the industry. And I can't think of a better guest than our guest today to kick off the event for Variety and for Kering. Robin Wright, as you all know, is in Cannes with a short film that premieres tonight, right?
Yes.
It's called The Dark of Night, set in the 1930s. I got a sneak peek, I saw it. Please check it out tonight. You know her from her credits in movies like The Princess Bride, Forrest Gump, Message in a Bottle, and you all, of course, know her from binge watching House of Cards on Netflix, where she started out as Claire Underwood, First Lady, and now possibly Claire Underwood, Vice Presidential Candidate. And she also directed 7 episodes of House of Cards, including episode 3, 4, 9, and 10 last season, which are the best episodes. And you can see her on the big screen this summer in Wonder Woman and in Blade Runner 2049, which comes out later this year, right? Robin, thank you so much for coming and joining us. I know you have a lot on your plate here in Cannes. Can you talk a little bit about what appealed to you about this idea for your short? How it came to you, why you decided to do it, and how you came across the script?
Well, my assistant, Nini Le Quinn, who's back there, she's been with me for 9 years. She met the writer of the short, Denise Myers. They became friends. Denise wants to send you the script, Robin. I was busy. I was directing the show. And finally, I was like, Nini, give me The Dark of Night. I know it's on the list of things to do. I read it in 5 minutes, and it's such a great 6-minute. It's a picture within what we're talking about today, which is the gender inequality thing that's going on in the forefront of the news, of feminism or whatever. It's a female vigilante movie set in the 30s. And I won't give it away, you have to come see it. Anyway, she said to me, I've produced it, I've put all of the crew of House of Cards, they've volunteered their services for free and their time on weekends to get this short ready. They raised money, raised money to have the art department fix up this diner, and we shot it over a Saturday and a Sunday. We had 12 hours of on-camera time to do this short film, and it's beautiful. Everybody just stepped up and did their best work. You know, people, and the reason I did it, yes, it's an exercise in, furthering this directing career and discovering new styles, because on House of Cards, we're very regimented within a style that David Fincher set for the show. We can only use certain lenses, for example. Like you don't take the 100 mil out of the box. It's not allowed.
Really?
Yeah, it's blasphemy on the show.
What does that do as an actress when you only use certain lenses? Does it affect the acting or the style of the
Very much so,
portrait?
because, it's a portrait House of Cards. Everything was supposed to be set back, a template with the people within their environment. You always want to see the environment they're in and see multiple characters interacting in that environment, as opposed to quick cuts, constant close-ups, back and forth. So you try to adhere to that as a director, the style of the show. And it was nice to depart for a second and just look through a different visual lens. It was an experiment for me visually to do it. And it's about something we're all talking about today.
And it was finance. Can you talk a little bit about the financing? Because we are talking to people who are interested in financing movies and getting their projects made. And I often interview women who want to direct but can't find the funds. So how did you crowdfund? How did you did you just put it online and people were interested in contributing?
Our producer, Nini, how did you crowdfund?
It was more actually just reaching out to friends and family who support us as dreamers of this industry, this film industry, and so it was more so it wasn't out to the public; it was more within the family. So.
But you raised over $50,000, just crowdfunding, to pay for the art department, because everyone did it for free. It was a labor of love, and so nice to work with our family, our House of Cards family. We've been there 6 years with that crew.
And the screenwriter is a first-time screenwriter, right?
Denise is right
Denise
there.
here?
She's written
Hi,
multiple scripts, and we're going to see more of them coming,
Okay.
I'm sure.
And you're going to direct more of them,
Okay.
Without giving away too much from the movie, it's a very empowering story because you go into it not knowing necessarily what's going to happen when the heroine comes into a 1930s diner. Was that what appealed to you about the story? The fact that there's action and suspense and it follows the heroine throughout the 7 minutes of the narrative.
Yeah, and within that 7 minutes, the beauty of it is that you are confused the whole time. Mm-hmm. Who's connected? Oh, and the reveal is so exciting. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we all like about film, is that you're a little bit on edge. Mm-hmm. And when we give fast food to the people, we get full quickly, mm-hmm. you know? Mm-hmm. So it's nice to just be a little bit elusive and give a crumb here and there, and I felt like this short portrayed that.
What is the fast food?
What is the fast food? Too much of one thing at one time. Mm-hmm.
In terms of our storytelling, or in terms of our...
I think that is a motto for the world, isn't it? It's excessive in any of those departments. Mm-hmm. I think the rat gets fat.
Were there other movies that you watched for inspiration or to sort of set the template of your film?
I did. Denise, what was the one that you told me to watch on the train?
Killers.
The Killers was one, black and white.
And Stranger on a Train.
Stranger on a Train, mm-hmm. Fantastic movie. More for music cues, like when the music would escalate mm-hmm. in a scene, how long they would hold on a character back then. Mm-hmm. Very different editing process they used. And we tried to emulate that a little bit.
We often hear from actors who are interested in directing that they understand the process in a different way because they've experienced it as actors. Do you feel like as an actress, when you approach directing, you have a specific style, you're more conscious of your actors because you've lived through it?
I would, personally, yeah, because yes. Maybe the principal difference is, you know, you think director, okay, that's a title, it's an alpha position, mm-hmm. you are directing somebody to do something. And when you've been an actor for 30 years and you watch these other animals, I mean, it's like watching an animal, you know, prey or search for food. It's a discovery. Every step through, which is every take, every mm-hmm. scene, is a discovery of something new mm-hmm. because you're reacting to the other animal mm-hmm. in the scene. And to watch that as a director, I think it's more important to let them play. Let the actor play a little bit because they have to get it out of their system. Mm-hmm. Then you can start directing if you're missing a key beat, a moment, an intonation on a word. But first, let them shake their hair out and run around the dog park. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Do you do rehearsal?
We don't have much time for that on the show. Mm-hmm. So it's literally, let's run through the scene quickly at 7, mm-hmm. go finish getting in makeup, and we got to be on camera at 8. Mm-hmm. So, you know, we have 15 minutes, but not like in the theater where you have a week or mm-hmm. months.
I wanted to ask you if you could tell everyone the story of how you decided to start directing House of Cards. It was, from what I read, it was season 2, and the show had become a phenomenon, and Kevin Spacey, I think, was going to direct an episode or two in season 2, and you thought to yourself, why don't I give this a try? Is that essentially what happened?
Yeah, we're like brother and sister on the show, where I'm like, what are you doing? I want to do that. And then Kev said, I just don't want to, I'm too busy. And I was like, literally. And they said, okay, let's try it. Mm-hmm. And I'll be forever grateful to that. They gifted me that mm-hmm. because I have a family there of seasoned veterans in the industry. Mm-hmm. Like our camera operator has been operating cameras for 43 years. Mm-hmm. So he's taught me everything about the lens. Mm-hmm. The DP shot Forrest Gump. He was the B camera on Forrest Gump. So we've known each other forever. And I've had cinema school through Netflix. Mm-hmm.
Who did you have to specifically ask? Did you have to specifically go to someone and say, think of me, I like to do this is important to me? How did you convince House of Cards to let you do this?
We're all very close, and we do collaborate, and it's a very open communication about everything. And when they said, let's go think about it, I think they powwowed and Fincher, I think he just gave the blessing. Like, of course she can do it. And I called him petrified. And I said, I don't know what to do. I'm so scared. Help me, help me, help me. And he goes, I'm not gonna help you. And I said, just give me one note. Give me one thing, one caveat that I can bring to the set. Because it's like carrying his torch, you know? And he said, all I'm gonna tell you is every scene you direct, every scene you act in, it's the same thing. What's that? He said, behavior over time. It's a fraction. So behavior is the most important thing of every piece of material that you read, that you perform in, and you direct. Look at the behavior. Has nothing to do with how long that scene is. If this behavior is fascinating, then you're successful.
And did that inform your style in those early episodes?
It did. It gave confidence to back the camera up and see the room, see everybody in the room, and see everybody's face, and are you looking at him? And that changes the behavior in the scene. And then I understood what he meant completely.
And then you did one and you thought, I want to do more? Or did they, and so essentially you started, you did one, and then you kept doing more.
Yes. Yeah, really great.
Can you tell me the story of, because I know you and David had worked together on The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and then he came to you with this project, House of Cards. And I think we're also used to streaming series now, and you turn on the Emmys and half the shows are from Amazon or Netflix, but House of Cards is really groundbreaking in that we'd never seen a streaming series where we had all the episodes on Netflix all at the same time and people were binge watching, and it changed the habits and the way in which we consume television. But I read that you were reluctant and unsure at first. Or were you not reluctant? Did you have questions? How did you decide to take on this role? Because you were making films at the time.
I had done television in the beginning of my career. I was on a soap opera called Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara, they have it here.
Oh, it's here in France? They have it
It
here?
was
Oh.
many years ago. And I think that was the reticence, is I thought, oh, going back into television means that we're working with 3 cameras the way you see on talk shows today. 3 huge cameras, and you have to play to each of them and memorize 30 pages of dialogue a day and say really cheesy words of dialogue. So I was like, yeah, I'm really not interested in returning to that forum. And he said, trust me, this is something completely different. It's an original piece. Yes, it was a British show, but we're going to develop the female character that was not in the British show. She's not just going to be the husband's wife, the politician's wife. And you can help me create that woman. She's going to be an equal to the man. And I said, all right, let's give it a try. We had no idea we'd be here 6 years later, you know?
How did you help create her? How did you inform her? How did you develop her? Because you're right, in the British version, she's not a fully formed character in the same way she is on the US version.
Yeah. The intention, you know, with the producer of the show, the creator of the show, Beau Willimon, was to have the perfect union of different genders. But the thing about Claire Underwood is that she's the best of both sexes. Francis is, he annihilates people, paths, right? He devours. He's so effusive. He's so expressive. He's so direct. And he's so verbal. And building that balance between her quietness and stoicism and observance. You know, she's very discerning. So we started developing her in that sense when I watched what Kevin did at the beginning of the series. I was like, why don't we have she that sits back, but you realize she's just as fierce an eagle. She just doesn't have to talk so much.
Did you draw inspiration from either real-life politicians or figures in literature, such as Shakespearean characters or figures in drama? Was she based in part by other characters that you responded to?
I mean, they told me on the phone before, arriving on set, they said, listen, it's really simple. She is Lady Macbeth to his Richard III. That was pretty clear.
What about politicians? Did you, male or female, did you study them or absorb their mannerisms or their way of speaking or?
Never. It's a different tenet. I don't think we have to delve into the politics of it or what that kind of behavior that we have on the show, that kind of opera that the show is in every field, right? So I don't know that you have to do a trajectory toward that specific division of. And listen, all you got to do is watch the news every night, and you see what's going on, and we get ideas from watching the news today.
Do you really?
Of course.
There's a lot that's happened in the last few days, as we all know. How do you think House of Cards plays, and do you think it changes in the Trump era? I know that you've already filmed season 5, but do you feel like the context or because you used to watch it and it was a fantasy during the Obama years, you'd say, this isn't really what happens in Washington, D.C., but now.
And then it would happen.
And then it would happen, yeah.
Trump has stolen all of our ideas for season 6. It's like, I don't know what we're going to do. Seriously.
We always talk, in these Kering Talks that we do, we always talk about the disparity between men and women directing. So I know that over your career, you've worked with female directors from Rebecca Miller for the Secret Lives of Pippa? Private Lives of Pippa Lee, and Patty Jenkins in Wonder Woman, which comes out in a few weeks. Why do you think that 2017, why do you think this is still an issue? Why do you think only 7% of films are directed by women? Just this tiny fraction. Why is it that the tentpoles are directed by men? Why is it that executives aren't giving women the opportunity to tell stories?
I think it's just a matter of time and breaking an old school of thought. This also applies to, well, why don't we have more directors from Tunisia? Why don't we have more directors from Vietnam? And yes, we have it here, these festivals, the European festivals. It's opening up perspective, that's all. It's accentuated with the percentage of women to men, more so than any other culture. I think, can we just get more nationalities, more perspectives back into the film industry, just to see through their lens, just a different perspective. And the women in film thing, it's time, and we just have to keep talking about it. Why don't we just encourage and promote and break this tradition of, I have a great story about Gloria Steinem. She was working, I think, for the New Yorker magazine, and she was commissioned to write an essay. Her colleague was also commissioned to write an essay. Same exact content, same amount of words, just different topics. Return it to me on Wednesday. They return it Wednesday. He got paid twice as much as she did. So she knocks on his door. Excuse me, why? And I did the same thing. And he goes, you know what? I got a Gucci handbag for you. Just take that for the difference. She walked out of his office thinking, I need the money so desperately. I did exactly what he did and I got paid half. She went to the Gucci store and they wouldn't return the purse. They wouldn't give her the money for it. So I think she probably sold it at a thrift store. Anyway, that was in the 70s.
Right.
And she's the pioneer of feminism. And the problem is feminism today has become, it's such a derogatory or diva-like word. Feminism means equality, period. Equal work, equal pay. That's what I advocate for, and that's what she stands up for.
Do you think that there's been such an awareness since the election about the role of women or the plight of women in American society with the women's marches and with the conversation that we're having? Do you think that could have a trickle-down effect into Hollywood, or do you think that the situation in Hollywood has gotten complicated given the fact that change doesn't seem to be happening? We've had, I've written articles for years about what's happened with the women directors and women producers and women financiers, and it doesn't seem like the statistics are improving? Or from the inside, does it seem like things are changing from your
Why
perspective?
do you think it hasn't changed?
From what I've learned talking to people, one of the major barriers is that the people that make decisions are male. Oh, the light just went. The people that make
How about that, Faith?
the people who make decisions are male, and the people who finance the movies. I was talking to Eleanor Coppola, who has a movie that's playing in theaters now, and she said the financiers are male. So the female stories aren't being told because the people that fund movies are male. And so you need to get women in decision-making roles so that more women start working behind the camera.
And isn't that interesting? Because you think of a lot of high-powered positions, some of these women that are CEOs and CFOs of major corporations who have turned companies around and made them billions within a year are women. Why can't we just start implementing that in the industry? Yeah. So it's time.
Do you think that we will see a female president of the United States?
You mean next season?
Yes. What's your platform? Tell us everything.
I don't know. We'll see. I hope so. I hope. After this election, you know, you cut to fast forward. You're like, God, I got to see the hope somewhere. I'm going to see it out there in the future. And, you know, everyone around the cooler and talking, what's going to happen? Oh, my God, we got 4 years of this? Oh, my God, what are we going to do? And I was thinking, you know, cut to 2024, and you think we're going to be in the future, and my kids are going to be adults and probably have their own kids. And I just want to keep this vision of, I want Michelle Obama up there. She would be a great female president. And she's turning over this time element we've been talking about, that it does take time to break the mold and psychology that just gets stuck. You just get stuck and going, well, men make more than women, or women shouldn't direct as much. Well, why? So it's a reteaching, it's a re-educating of sorts. And maybe it's just going to take a little more time for Michelle to send that message.
We have some questions from social media that we wanted to ask you. The first one is from Twitter, from user Ted Sind, and her question is, the House of Cards episodes that you directed had a very precise and distinct style. How would you describe your style as a director?
Ooh. That's tough.
Or are there directors that inform your style? Are there directors that you feel like...
Yes, good.
Let's
Thank
do
you
that.
for that
Yeah.
addendum. I'm like, yeah. Just because the style of the show, and I know I'm repeating myself, is so etched in stone. And then trying to inform and impose your style on that structure is tricky. Because sometimes you want to go closer, really close, get in, and that's not the format of our show. Influence, the first person that comes to mind is Kieslowski. He's one of my favorite directors, and I love the way he shoots. And it's about texture, which is also about the environment. Because he will shoot from behind that piece of glass that's behind this piece of glass with this chair in front of you and, you know, a satchel, and then this guy with the hat and glasses. You see. And it's layers and textures that are so interesting when you're trying to sense the character in his environment. What are you sensing about him? Everything around him is what you're sensing about him, and that affects him.
Have you absorbed things from different directors that you've worked with? Are there tricks that you pick up over the years, or take, or borrow, or use in your wheelhouse?
Mostly you're like, okay, I'll never do that if I direct. I'll never. And one of them is, and I think it's important, is never use the word don't. Don't put your hands like that. immediately you're self-conscious and you're like, oh, okay, I'll just put my hand like that. Trying to take the negative word away is great. What's great about your hand on that pad right now is it looks so content. That's a positive, and you feel good and you get relaxed. So those kinds of things really stood out in the 30 years of watching directors direct actors.
And then our second Twitter question is from Queen Evil Regal. I don't know if she's here today, but she says, you're on my list of one of the most inspiring women. What inspires you as an artist?
As an artist? God, it's twofold. Because as a director, it's another animal. The inspiration there is the discovery of exploration within people. And this is human beings, like when I go to Africa and do human condition and the human dynamics, it's so amazing, and what you learn from one another, just connecting, that's inspirational. That's why I want to tell stories. That's why I share stories. That's what we do as actors, directors. We're sharing story. And we want to touch you emotionally by it. We want you to be moved or confused or happy. And that's what makes me get up in the morning. I love touching people's hearts and moving them and getting them excited about the thing I'm excited to see.
We have, I think, some time for some questions from the audience. You can raise your hand. Is there a mic? Or they'll just speak out? They'll just speak out. Yes, go ahead. You in the front.
My question to you is basically, how did you grow yourself into being a confident woman? Do you maybe remember, like, what was this first moment when you really felt that you're confident and that you can be equal as a woman to other men in your professional environment? What's the process for you, or you were just born like that?
No. I wish. Again, it's time. It took me a long time to grow into my woman. And yet I grew up very fast as a child. Street smart, had a very particular, wisdom, as some kids do when they go through a lot when they're young. Divorce and moving, and I was at a different school every 2 years, lived in a different city, different, state every 2 years. And being around a lot of people all the time and adapting quickly, but also being very guarded because you're moving so fast through people. You don't want to engage because then it hurts when you leave. And growing up as a woman happening later, I think experience with, your kids growing up and seeing them become young adults. You're not mommying them in the same way. That helped. And I think being on the show, House of Cards, because we're all producers of it, all of us. So there's a team of us working on the writing every day, creating, developing, evolving the show. We didn't know where it was going to go. We didn't know the arc, where it was going to end. And to do that every day with your people, that's a working environment. And then you don't feel like the outcast. You don't feel like, the minority and the disenfranchised person, because we're all equally important on that show. And I think that helped a lot to grow up.
Do you guys have an end in mind now for the show?
Yes, we do.
And you're going to share it with all
Nope,
of us?
that's not going to happen.
Next question. Yes, you in the purple or red or purple, I think.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry, thank you. It's Hannah from the Telegraph in London.
It's not on, I don't think.
Okay, I'll try and shout.
Stand up, stand up, stand up.
Hi. I'm Hannah from the Telegraph in London. My question is, you were talking earlier about how we do a lot of talking about empowerment and women in the industry. I'm just wondering whether you have any practical suggestions for any sort of tangible aims that the industry can work towards. For example, quotas at film festivals for female directors. Is there anything practical you can suggest?
I think more of these talks is what we need. Social media, this will blast on social media, and you will share it and share it. And I think it's just opening up the forum for conversation. It provokes conversation. And that equals reach. And then proactivity begins of anything. I don't have anyone's number, if that's what you're asking, that you could call, or I don't really know.
Yes, you in the black.
I want to know what is the most. Thank you. My name is Asma from BuzzFeed. I want to know what is the most sexist thing you had to face in the film or TV industry?
The most sexist. I think I was 17 in Paris and went in for a go-see thinking they were just looking at the face. And he said, lift up your top. And I'm like, okay. No, I like the other one's titties better. I don't like. That was probably, and that was about another woman, right? It was between me or, yeah.
That was during your audition?
Yeah, that was during the audition.
What did you do?
I didn't get the job.
Yeah. Another question? Yes, you. Just talk, you're close enough, yeah.
I'm Emily from the University of Michigan Daily. And so, as a young college student embarking on a career in entertainment, is there anything you wish you had known when you were 17 or 21 that you could impart on young women entering the industry?
Entering the industry. Ooh. We're really talking about your voice, amplifying your voice. And I think that's what young women need to be encouraged to do. And you don't have to yell. You can just stand your ground, speak your truth, and amplify your voice in that way. Because we don't want to be separate. We're not trying to create more disparity because we're not treated the same. Just join forces and speak out about it.
We have time for 2 more questions.
Karina with Young Style. Hi. With movements like Ask for More, it kind of implies that we can't enjoy fashion or beauty anymore. How do you balance feminism with femininity?
So I couldn't understand the beginning.
So Ask for More is a campaign where they're encouraging women on the red carpet not to just be asked about fashion, but to be asked substantial questions. And sorry, the second part of the question was given that.
How do you balance your own femininity with feminism?
I don't know how to answer that. I mean, that red carpet syndrome, it's always going to be about the fashion. That's why it's there. That's why people are stopped on that carpet, because they're wearing a designer's piece. And you're there to sell. You're doing them a favor, and they're doing you a favor by giving you publicity. It's a give and take, that return. So I don't really know how to marry those two things of femininity and feminism. And you're a woman, you wear a dress, and people say, well, why don't they ask questions about the man in the tuxedo and the suits? Well, because they're all wearing the same thing.
And one last question. Okay,
From a man.
From a man. Every question had been from a female. So yes, go ahead. We can end with you.
No, it's okay. I mean, we are in countries, first of all, as a director, as a Netflix star, there's a big debate here with Netflix coming up with 2 movies that is going to, the or might be for a movie that is not going to be released in a movie theater. So what's your opinion about that? And as the president of the jury yesterday, Pedro Almodovar said he was against streaming services like Netflix in a competition like this. So what's your take about that?
I don't know anything about that, actually. That's news to me. I can't comment on that because I don't live here. I don't have a TV show that operates out of this country in your protocol, so I can't comment on it. It's not fair for me to. I work in the States for a company that does a show, and we launched a streaming show, which is, it's a new forum. So it's difficult to really criticize right now because we've never done this before. We've never had this in this medium where you can get it as much as you want for as long as you want, pick it up and close it at your in your own volition. We've never had that ability.
Do you think it's important for movies to play in movie theaters, or are you of the mindset that if someone can stream it at home, that's a good thing?
Oh, I don't. The movie theater will forever be the first choice, of course. I mean, I think it's actually rude for people to watch movies on their phones. It's not fair to the filmmakers. Like, can you open it up? No, the cinema, of course, I would. If you had your druthers, right, you would always go there.
And then the last thing I wanted to ask you before we wrapped was, have you seen Wonder Woman?
Yeah.
What can you tell us? Anything?
Wonder Woman, it's so cool. It's so cool. And what's really great about it is, sounds really cheesy and a Hallmark card and the platitudes that we see on the wall. But this movie, yes, it's a female superhero and it's never been done before, and the generation, the young girls and young boys that we're talking about that are going to be our future, they're going to flock to the cinema. And the message of this movie is not just female empowerment. Meh. It's about love and justice. That's what the film's about. And what a great message to spread to our little ones.
Robin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Everyone, please see your movie, The Dark of Night, tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you.